Assalamu ala Rasulillah. Inshallah, we'll try to take the questions tonight, December 29th. Excuse me. Last Thursday of this month at 9:30 p.m. We will be discussing Pray as You Have Seen Me Praying, Part 3. You can find a lecture on HadithDisciple.com, as well as a full list of all of the virtual Islamic services that we provide for the Muslims, regardless of the area or time zone in which you live. Jazakumullahu khairan. Faddal. Shahriya, faddal.
Sniff water up the nose during wudu if one of our nostrils or both are blocked.
Say the question again, I'm sorry?
How can we sniff water
Clear.
during wudu if it's blocked?
Understood. Well, you're gonna, with regards to your nose being blocked, you're congested, your nasal passages, etc., you try your best. If you can blow your nose before, or loosen yourself, or whatever, if it's totally blocked, fattakullah mastata'tum. Let alone the fact that putting water in the mouth and the nose isn't something which is necessarily mandatory according to all of the scholars of Islam. Alright? But you should put the water in the mouth and in the nose. And then sniffing it, yani istinshaq, madmada wal istinshaq, it doesn't mean that you have to burn your brain. Even though there are hadiths regarding the baligh, alright, go above and beyond as a preferred act of wudu. Illa an takuna sa'iman, right? The narration states. But it doesn't mean that you have to put the water what? All the way up, right? Wallahu ta'ala alam. Fadda Ilyas. Fadda.
When we're talking about the scenario with we have Hassan al-Basri, who's a well-known imam, Tabi'in, which he differs in the opinion. And we have a scenario like this, where perhaps one studies, right, and one is somebody who is able to make a certain decision, and we differ from the majority of the ulama because of, for example, a hadith which may seem clear to us. So is one considered, for example, a khalaf, and then in this case, what is there some sort of principle that as to why these ulama follow that view, or is there a extra information which we don't know that perhaps
Understood.
didn't have?
Well, there is a rule, there is a principle or principles, and there aren't. Okay, there are hardcore principles in fiqh, and there are things which it goes off of the tailor-made situation. All right, so the ulama of Islam, wallahu alam, that know we quoted, in most cases, they just looked at the linguistic term. And what is the minimum of dhaqa? So if a person was fasting, and he opened a honey jar, and he took what? And he swallowed it, he would have broken his fast. La shak fi dhalik. Yani yasduq alayhi. Linguistically, he tasted the honey. So they're looking at the minimum in the language, and perhaps those other ulama are also looking at the fact that it isn't a must. Now, Hassan al-Basri, rahimahullah ta'ala, as we clearly explained, the prophetic expression, it is the importance of reading the hadith directly, and not just reading books of fiqh, but going to the source. In al-alfadh al-qawalib al-ma'ani, the words contain the meanings. The Messenger of Allah did not say this and that. He said what? He used it, and he mentioned it twice. Pay close attention. He didn't say until you taste this honey, but he said what? Both of you, proving that it's a bit more. Let alone the fact that for her to make iddah, if a man just did that act, obviously there are rules of science with regards to a woman conceiving a child and becoming pregnant. But in most cases, wallahu alam, in most cases, she's not, the chances of conception are what? So the hikmah, the iddah, the this, the that, and Allahu alam, it seems as if what? That it's a bit more than that. Wallahu ta'ala alam. So there are rules. And I would advise you as a student of knowledge to study that which is called asbab al-khilaf. Okay? Why the scholars differ. And there are scholars who have specific books or works on it, and there are scholars who have spoken on these issues in larger works. The etiquette of the student of knowledge, what's your job, what's your responsibility, what are your rules, and the concept of ittifaq and ijma', which is oftentimes called or quoted loosely and lackadaisically, right? Wallahu ta'ala alam. And how can you say that the scholars agree unanimously? And Hassan al-Basri, if there was anyone who's a scholar, it would be La shak fi dhalik. He's at the head, at the top of the ulama. All right? So when you study usul al-fiqh, you understand that the word ittifaq or ijma', there are dynamics to those words. And all of the time, it doesn't necessarily mean every single living creature from the Muslims, let alone the scholars, agreed. Sometimes they will use the word ittifaq or even ijma' to mean overwhelming majority. Wallahu ta'ala alam.
Second question, when we were talking about, that essentially the practice of, marrying for the sake of being divorced is a major sin. And we talked about that, the curse of Allah is upon those people. Does this practice would have any like hudud punishment?
Understood. Well, it's going to be hard to find out. That's something which is on the inside. Only Allah knows who's truthful, who has the proper intention. Why did you marry her? Why did you divorce her? Like the Prophet ﷺ said to the two companions, Allah knows that one of you two is lying. He's saying he saw it with the man, you're saying I wasn't with the man. Someone has to be what? Lying. So therefore, outwardly we can't make a decisive ruling because we don't know. I wasn't there. So therefore, if a man marries a woman only with that intention, only Allah knows. Only Allah Azza wa Jal knows. You understand? If we come across it outwardly, different story. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Let's move on to Fadda Akhi.
So with regards to what she mentioned, right, with regards to the translation said impotency, right, but you said the Arabic said the tip of a shirt, right? So whether it's this or that, what's in terms of seeking marriage, can a woman ask about this?
Understood.
And what's the extent of sexual questions that somebody can engage in?
Understood. Well, obviously, the best cure is prevention. The best medicine is what?
Prevention.
Don't get sick. Don't get the cancer. Don't get the diabetes. That's the best way of fighting it, right? So therefore, to find out, to make sure that you're not in that bad, embarrassing, difficult situation, ask ahead of time. And you can ask a question like that even without being direct. You can say, do you have any physical ailments or abnormalities? No. Sister asks again, do you have any physical ailments or abnormalities? Anything. Right? She goes, you get what I'm trying to say without having to say it. He says, no, I'm good. I'm all right. So marriage night, he finds out that he has this problem, that problem. No sin and no shame upon her. Getting divorced because he clearly lied to her. I have no abnormalities. My body isn't perfect, but I don't have no missing this or this disease is I can't, walk for a minute without passing out, etc., etc. And if you need further clarity, then you need what? Further clarity. You go to buy a car, you say, listen, man, I need to know V8, V12, V6, V10, what's the engine like, test drive, etc. You need clarity. Because once I put my name, I sign this, I take the car off the lot, anything that happens,
It's your fault.
So for argument's sake, if a sister asks that question bluntly, listen, Aki, are you good or not? For argument's sake, I wouldn't say that's haram. Nor would I say that's something shameful. Especially in the time and age in which we live. Let's be what? Real, and let's be honest. We're not living in the village somewhere 200 years ago. Everyone knows each other. Women cover up. We're broadcast. We live in a sexualized world, unfortunately. Wala hawla wala quwwata illa billah. From the moment you're a baby and a child, things are being hurled at you, let alone today, LGBTQ, XYZ, etc., in which they are targeting the children with this agenda. In every single movie and cartoon, cereal box, they're coming directly at the children's jugular vein, normalizing this thing. Allahu musta'an. Next question.
Sure. I'm aware that there's a tafsir of Surah Tahrim.
Make sure the cup is empty. Okay? I'm aware. Make sure the cup is empty, bone dry. Bismillah.
Can the hadith regarding honey be used as evidence that the tafsir of Surah Tahrim regarding honey is a metaphor for sexual intercourse?
Tight. Well, there are hadiths regarding Surah Tahrim clearly showing what happened. and that it isn't metaphorical, and that the Prophet ﷺ actually had something to drink. And if it wasn't for that, one could perhaps, but there are clear narrations stating what took place, and it wasn't what? Metaphorical or figurative. Wallahu ta'ala alam. And obviously there are rules on when something becomes metaphorical or figurative in Arabic. There are rules to this. And this is one of the main problems of the different groups and sects and denominations, the Aqidah of the Salaf and of the Athar, and the Aqidah of the other groups and other schools that were evolved. Is majaz, when it is literal, when it's a haqiqah, etc., etc., etc. There are rules to that in Arabic. And even in English, there are rules to it. Everything, you can't just make something figurative when you want to. But the context, the sentence, the culture, the language and the culture are never separate. I'll be back in a second. Right? You said a second, you're fired. You get what I'm trying to say? Wahakida. Wallahu a'lam. It's a question from online. Fadal.
CA Bronx, New York. Did any of our scholars now or old discover anything from the Quran the Salaf was unaware of?
Discovering something that the Salaf were unaware of from the Quran. I would say, humbly, wallahu alam, it's a yes and a no answer, or no and a yes answer. As a whole, that which was needed, that which was important, that which we had to know about and practice, then of course not. No. As far as certain things, certain extraction, certain, deducements, etc., whatever the case may be, mumkin. Wallahu a'lam. Wa fawqa kulli dhi ilmin alim. Wallahu a'lam. But the holistic way, la abadan. The Salaf, they researched, they spoke on, they talked about, and they understood everything that was needed. And that's why you have to read the book Fadl Ilm al-Salaf al-Ilm al-Khalaf, Ibn Rajab. Very important work for the student of knowledge, even a layman Muslim, to read that book to understand what was their style in speaking, those theological schools. You have to, they need 10, 20 pages to talk about it. It was clear. It was simple. Wallahu alam.
K.A. Queens, New York. What is the ruling on talking trash to your friend regarding sports teams?
Talking trash to your friends regarding sports teams. Well, that depends. If it's the Giants, then it's halal. If it's other than the Giants, if it's the Eagles or something, then it's makruh or haram. Tfaddal. And like we said, like we said before, and we'll say it again, I got nothing but love for my brothers and sisters in New York. It ain't an attack about. It's a Khalid Mufti thing, right? The people trying to make it to a black-white thing, East-West Coast thing. Lie. No disrespect to the Mets, to the Yankees, to the Giants, to the Rangers, to the Islanders. It's a what? It's a Khalid and me type of thing. What was the score? 48 to what? 22 or something like that.
22.
MashaAllah alayk. Fadda.
R.A. Boston, New York. I've recently fell out of love with the dunya and just focused on making it to Jannah and making a living without any other serious aspirations. Is it okay to feel like this?
There's nothing wrong with that, as long as you do what's necessary from the dunya. As long as you're not neglecting or ignoring any mandatory responsibilities, and you want to devote yourself 100% to him, that's fine. And there's some scholars of the past, some ulama, they would say about them that this alim, he knows more about the narrators of hadith than the men in his village. He doesn't know everybody, a small village. He knows more about the men in the books than the people that he lives with. Meaning day and night he was what? Immersed in the kutub. So if you have that level of piety and devotion, alhamdulillah. Wallahu alam. That's it? Tayyib. Fadal.
SM Melbourne, Australia. Regarding a man divorcing his wife 3 times, can the woman remarry her previous husband if she sincerely asked for khula after the requirements with her current husband been met?
She cannot remarry that husband until there's what? Clear as day. Alright? Has to be the tasting of aywa, based off of what we explained. Inshallah, Sheikh Khan. May Allah bless you. Done?
I was just going to ask if you can double dip, Sheikh.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. The levels of honey, Sheikh. Some quality is better than others. Khair, inshallah. No other questions before we stop. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله نبينا وإمامنا محمد
جزاك الله خيراً.
وإياكم